Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is the video version of my Tech Guy podcast. We do 6 hours of Tech Guy radio every week, but we didn't want you to have to download 6 hours, so we've edited this down into a more palatable chunk. Just the best parts from shows 711, 712. These shows aired October 23rd and 24th, 2010. Enjoy. All that Tech Guy's on again, Maud. See if there's something else on the radio. This is where we talk about stuff that's changing your life. Computers, yeah, sure, Windows and Mac and Linux and the internet. That's changing everything, isn't it? Yeah, sure. But not just that. No, we talk about digital photography. Those nice cameras, the digital cameras. We talk about I got to talk about cell phones. That's really that's the hot and happening thing right now, isn't it? Sure. So we talk a lot about cell phones. Waiting for that Windows Mobile 7 to come out. We talk about that. Home theater, big screen TV, surround sound. Those are computers nowadays. I mean, all that stuff has chips in it. Anything with a chip in it. This is what I will talk about with you. That's the other part I'd like. It's a call-in show. So if you've got a question or you saw something you want to know more about, or maybe you saw something and you tried it and you wish you hadn't and you wanted to tell the world not to, that's good too. The phone number is 1, because it's toll-free, 888-827-5536. But you don't, that's hard to remember. That's 8 digits, right? It's too hard to remember. So try this. 1-8888-ASK-LEO. Isn't that nice? That's nice and easy. 8888-ASK-LEO. Somebody sent me a note yesterday, said, hey, I have a cell phone that doesn't have letters on it or something. I don't know what. I guess the BlackBerry doesn't have the dial pad doesn't have letters next to the numbers. It is kind of old-fashioned. You know where that comes from? Pennsylvania 65000. When they exchange, the first 2 digits were actually letters, right? Pennsylvania 65000. Occasionally, you'll find an old dial phone. The kids are going, what is he talking about? An old dial phone will still have the old exchange on it. So that's why and so they're really, it's kind of the idea of putting a number on a pad now is kind of silly, except that, there are people like me who do this thing so you can remember their number, 8888-ASK-LEO. I got a Google Voice number that's really good. I haven't used it. I got to use it. I think it's 7575 Hey Leo or something like that. It's a great number. When you get Google Voice, have you tried Google Voice? This is a great free service for people in the U.S. Not outside the U.S., alas, but in the U.S., it's a free service from Google. In fact, through the end of the year at least, they've promised free long-distance calls in the U.S. and Canada. So you go to voice.google.com, you sign up, you choose a number. Now, the number's not a toll-free number. It's going to be, in fact, usually you get to choose what area code, but I think as the area codes fill up, you can't even get an area code sometimes in your own area code. Or you could use it to spoof your area code. I know people who pretend they live in San Francisco or pretend they live in New York City. So they use an area code from New York City. And then when people call that now, you go online and you set this up so that when people call that number, a pseudo number, that it rings a real phone, and you can have it ring all your phones. So if you have a cell phone and a home phone and an office phone, you can ring all 3. So it's really cool. And if somebody wants to leave a message, it'll record it, email you the audio. If you wish, transcribe it. And Google's transcription's still a little far-fetched. I get the funniest messages on my Google Voice. But, you can't get an idea who it is, and it'll transcribe it, and then it'll mail it to you or text it to you, this is what I use, because then I can just ignore the phone, see who it was, and get the text of what or at least Google's approximation of what they wanted to tell me. It's and it's free. It's a great service. How did I get started on that? Oh, I was talking about phone numbers and how they've changed. So if you're on a BlackBerry or another device that doesn't have alphabetics, I believe somebody told me that you can. There's a way on the BlackBerry to use the letters on the keyboard to dial the numbers. So 8888 Ask Leo. I think if you press and hold or something. But anyway, if you don't have the numbers, 888-827-5536. Or if you don't have letters, I guess. But if you have letters, easy to remember, 8888 Ask Leo. Boy, that's the longest explanation of a phone number you're ever going to get. Shift. That's right, Dan. Shift. Dan, my chat moderator, still remembers how the BlackBerry works. We're going to get Dan to call in. He's like the ultimate geek. Apple, of course, as you may know, had a big announcement on Wednesday. They announced, we're going to talk about this because I think some of it's very interesting, some of it's very disturbing. But Apple announced new version of the operating system will be out. Lion, OS 10 Lion, will be out next year, summer of next year. They announced, an app store and some things like that. But they also announced new MacBook Airs. These are the little thin and light Macintoshes they make. And then they're kind of cute. And Dan immediately bought one and has his already. I'm jealous because I immediately bought one too, but I don't have mine already. So we'll have to get Dan to tell us about it. Very tiny, thin, light, and expensive. Expensive, I confess. But Apple's never been known for being a bargain. They don't have any competition. They're the only ones, right? If you want a Mac, you got to buy it from Apple. So, let's see what else is going on in the world of technology that we can talk about. Seems to me there have been a few things going on. Those Google TVs are starting to come out now. The Logitech review, mine is shipped, but I haven't got it yet, so I can't review it for you yet. Can't review the review. I will next week, and I will review the MacBook Air next week for you. But those who have already got it or have bought a Sony TV, because Sony TV has Google TV in it, and you can also buy a Sony Blu-ray player that has the Google TV in it. Those who have bought it are a little disappointed because, well, it was hard to set up. Somebody complained, I think it was Danny Sullivan, that it took him 45 minutes to get his TV working. Ay. You just want to turn it on, don't you? And then he gets it working, and then, some of it works, and it's kind of weird, and some of it doesn't work. And then look at this. First, they block Hulu. They say, oh, you go to Hulu on your Google TV because it has a browser. You go to Hulu.com, which normally on your computer you can watch Hulu shows for free. You go there, they say, no, I'm sorry, Hulu is blocked on Google TV. And now ABC, CBS, and NBC, all three have blocked their shows on Google TV. So I've talked about this before. The fight has begun. Get ready, because it's going to get vicious. It's going to get ugly. When you corner a tiger, they fight. And you got to remember that the networks, the cable companies, they're cornered right now by the internet. The internet's closing in on their business model, just as it did on the record industry. The record industry fought back, didn't they, with lawsuits, and they didn't win. They didn't succeed. They shut down Napster. They sued a lot of people. They got a lot of money out of a lot of, sad individuals. But that didn't stop the fundamental change that people are now buying their music online. I wouldn't want to be in the record store business right now. I certainly wouldn't want to be in the video store business right now. All this is changing. And ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, the cable companies, they're all incredibly threatened by this. And the response when they're threatened is, shut it down. Shut it down. So geeks know, and CJ's telling me in the chat room, this is so true. Geeks know, it's easy to do. All you do is you change the browser type in the Google because they can't shut it down for the internet. They don't want to shut it down for the internet. But the problem is they don't want people watching it on Google TV. But that's a browser on the internet. So all you have to do is set your Google TV browser to say, I'm not Google TV, I'm Firefox. And it works. It's just going to get ugly as these companies try to survive. And I talked to somebody, a really smart guy named John Perry Barlow this week. He's a rancher, a Montana rancher, was anyway. Grateful Dead lyricist, kind of a fascinating guy, but also founded a company or an organization almost 20 years ago called the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF. And they've been fighting to kind of protect civil liberties. They're like the ACLU of the internet, fighting to protect civil liberties. Sometimes as controversial, by the way, as the ACLU on the internet. They're trying to protect things like this. trying to fight for this. And John said the interesting thing. He said, when these companies are faced with this kind of substantial change to the way they work, their business, everything they know is changing, they know they're going to lose in the end. The record companies knew they were going to lose in the end. The cable companies know they're going to lose in the end. The television and movie industry knows eventually internet is here. It's gonna change their business. But they fight so that it doesn't happen on their watch. The whole thing is, if we could just keep it going for a few more years till I retire, then the kids can do whatever they want. I understand that motivation. Just keep it like we knew it, just for a few more years, just till we're out of here, and then whatever you want to do. And it's funny because I was told the same thing about the record companies. My friend Cory Doctorow, who's also a freedom fighter on the internet and a great novelist, he said, these guys aren't evil. They're not bad. They know that ultimately internet distribution of music is going to happen. They know that. But they're just not on their watch. That's all. They just don't want it to happen while they're in charge. I understand that. But believe me, this is the beginning of a very vicious war. The cable companies do not want you to have a big fat pipe at their expense into your house where you get all your TV and HBO. They don't want you buying movies directly from the movie companies. No, because then they don't get their cut. They don't want you watching TV shows unless they get their cut. The networks don't want you just watching onesie-twosie shows. They want you to buy the whole network. They all hate this, but it's all going to change. It is. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Your call's next. Here, I've got a little bit of a cold. If you notice, I'm a little congested. I've got a nice big cup of chai, a morning bun from the Bovine Bakery next door. That's a terrible name for a bakery, the Bovine Bakery. But here in cow country where I live, we like cows, so a Bovine Bakery's okay. And then I want to thank our visitor Peter from Buffalo, who brought me something called Buffalo Sponge Candy, which is nothing like SpongeBob SquarePants. It's actually quite delicious. Thank you, Peter. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number from Cranston, Rhode Island, where my mom and my sister live. Don is on the line. Hi, Don.
Good afternoon, Leo. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Before I ask my question, I got to ask you. I'm watching you on TWiT Live.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a high school graduation photo of you above your clock?
It is. Boy, you have sharp eyes. So for people who are listening to the radio, this is a radio show. There are no pictures except. I think I'm not alone. I think Rush does this. Everybody does this now. We have cameras. We have a video studio, and if you go to the internet, live.twit.tv, you can watch a radio show being made, which is the silliest thing in the world. But in order to make this visually appealing, because I'm just sitting here talking into a microphone, I put a lot of junk behind me. And you could spot that. That's my high school. I'm wearing a necktie and overalls. I was a maverick, a renegade.
All right. Well, let me ask. Kind of on a similar topic, I've digitized all my DVD collections onto my hard drive.
Okay.
And I have a video card that supports HDMI out. So I plugged it into my TV, my LCD, which supports 720p. That's as high as I guess it'll go.
Okay.
Now, the Blu-rays look kind of blurry.
Yeah.
Blu-rays.
They're not as high. Blu-ray's 1080p. It's higher quality.
I meant DVDs. They look very blurry on the TV, but if I go into the computer and change the resolution for the LCD TV, they look great, but it won't stay on. It blinks.
So what do you change in the computer? What are you changing? I see. So the computer's seeing the LCD TV as a display.
It sees it as 1360 by 768.
Okay.
I changed it to 1080p.
Interesting, and it looks the TV can handle it.
But then it blinks on and off. So obviously it's not handling somewhere in the chain.
And do you know what this is something that people don't normally need to know about a TV, but when you're doing what you want to do, it's kind of valuable. Do you know what the native resolution of the TV is? That is the number of dots and number of lines in the TV.
I think it's 1360 by 768. That could be.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the computer says, well, this is the resolution.
Okay.
And so the computer is. This is why you have a device driver for a monitor. The device driver for a monitor, unlike device drivers for other devices, is not computer code. It's actually a text file. It's an INF file that says I can handle this resolution, and this resolution at this refresh rate. It's the specs for the monitor, and it's important the computer know that because it is theoretically possible. I don't think this is possible on an LCD, but on a CRT, if you set the refresh rate incorrectly, you can actually blow it up. So it's important that that the computer know this is what the monitor is capable of, and if the computer does not have a driver, a specific driver, that's designed for that monitor, it will guess, and it will guess low because it doesn't want to take a chance. Nobody wants to blow up your TV. Now, I don't think LCDs have that problem, but the computer will. So what you need to do is look in the driver for your computer, and see if it's, just open your display control panel and see if it's seen as a generic VGA or what it's seen as.
Oh, it says the brand name.
It does. Excellent. Fantastic. So then in that case, I would guess, I'm pretty sure, in fact, that the computer says that's the resolution. 13, whatever.
You can't change it. It won't accept.
Well, it won't display it because it can't do it. So what you're seeing initially is that the TV is scaling it.
Yep.
And then says, "Whoa, no, that's not," and goes back to its normal resolution. Now, here's the question: what resolution did you digitize these DVDs at?
I just used. To tell you the truth, I don't know the program offhand, but.
And you didn't change the settings, so it probably just said, "Oh, I'm going to make it the same as a DVD."
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now,
and here's a question: did you strip out the copy protection?
Because this is just a backup file. In other words, these are my DVDs. I own them physically. I just wanted to put them on.
No, I understand. But the issue is that there is a feature in the HDCP, the high def copy protection, which is what's used across that whole chain to protect it, rights holders, that if it's copy protected premium material and it sees that and you don't have rights to it, it steps it down, downgrades it to 480i.
Yeah, no, it's been stripped out.
Okay.
Was it CSS, something like that?
Yeah, CSS is the copy protection. DCSS removes it.
Okay.
So that's good. So HDCP is not getting involved. That's a real nasty problem and would give you exactly this result. I got to take a break. Hang on. I will consult with my brain. That is the chat room, and be back in a moment. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And I'm going to eat this fabulous morning bun, more importantly. Oh, my God. Yeah, my diet's down the drain today. We have a great chat room. irc.twit.tv is the chat. I should say right at the beginning of every show, and I don't, and I apologize, that we do have a website, such as it is. It's not the greatest website, not the most beautiful website ever, but functional, techguylabs.com. And James DeRuvo's writing everything I say down, so all the links are there and everything. And there's a link there to the video I mentioned earlier, the chat room as well. And the chat room is a place that I often go for answers because there's 1,000 people in there who have tried everything that we talk about. Like Don, they've tried to hook up a computer to the TV. You're using a Windows PC, Don? Oh, is Don gone? Don.
Hello?
There. Are you using a Windows PC, Don?
Yes, Windows 7.
So a couple of possibilities from the chat room. Nobody in the chat room is sure. Are you setting... Let me ask you this. When you watch the TV on the computer, rather the computer on the TV, are you mirroring displays? In other words, is the same thing on the computer as is on the external display?
No, it's extended.
Okay, you might try mirroring.
Okay.
That could well be part of the problem.
Is there any software that will upscale it in the way like a Blu-ray player will upscale your old DVDs?
Yeah. Well, the TV should do a very good job of us upscaling it. So I think that's what's going on here, is that the TV is turning off the upscaling for some reason. And for some reason, when you go to a higher resolution, the TV says, oh... Because what you're saying, just to recap, is, make sure I understand it. When you plug it in and everything and then let everything do its normal thing, the TV, it looks blurry. It doesn't look good.
No, just when I play back movies. Like I'm watching you right now in full screen, and I know you're not...
No, we're 480p. We're not high quality.
It looks great.
Well, thank you. Isn't that interesting?
You know, but a DVD looks terribly blurry.
Yeah,
And
that sounds like it's being downscaled, not upscaled.
Yeah.
And then when you switch the resolution to a higher resolution, which the TV's not capable of, but it sends a signal to the TV that this is a higher resolution thing. Briefly, it flickers and it looks great.
Right, and then it goes off, on again, off again. It doesn't seem like the TV wants to accept that resolution, but it does look good. Everything gets a little smaller, just like it would on a monitor.
Yeah, that's how the TV handles it. The TV says, "Look, I can't. I'm not going to blow it up.
Right.
I'm going to shrink it down because, yeah."
But every 5 seconds it goes to black. And I saw somebody on the chat room said, is it just the movie that goes black or the whole desktop? Everything goes black. So it's like it becomes unusable. It
does indeed sound like copy protection is jumping in, and what it's doing is it's saying, you don't own the rights to this, and I'm gonna make it 480i interlaced, basically standard definition. And
even using something like DVD encryptor.
You're using the SlySoft DVD ripper? Yeah. And what are you playing it back with?
Everything. I tried, obviously, Windows Media Center.
Try VLC.
Yeah, I use VLC. That's what I'm watching you on, actually.
Yeah, because VLC, these guys don't care about copy protection. so it really sounds like what's happening is the TV's getting the signal. Yep. It's deciding it's premium content. And it's doing what HDCP is supposed to do, which is, well, you don't have the right. I don't see this key that says you have the rights to this, so I'm going to go to 480i.
And a VGA connector, would that make a difference?
Yeah. If you don't use HDMI, the TV is going to go, I don't know what this is. So I would try doing it either DVI to HDMI. Well, that's probably what you're doing, right?
No, HDMI.
Oh, your computer has HDMI. Yeah, I bet you it's HD. It's the copy protection.
Okay.
So,
well, thank you for all.
So that's what HDCP is supposed to do, which is, you don't own the rights to this. We're going to let you watch it, but we're going to let you watch it. Really, it looks terrible, but you can still watch it. It goes down to SD interlaced.
Is there any way to get?
Well, yes. Don't use HDMI. Try that. First thing I'd try is just mirroring the displays, seeing if that helps. And if mirroring the displays doesn't help, then take the VGA or DVI out and see. Because it's the HDCP that's doing the copy protection, and that requires HDMI. So, but try mirroring. We have people in the chat room say, no, I've had the same problems, and it wasn't HDCP. So, but it's just, this is exactly what the copy protection is supposed to do. But they say don't do extended, so I'm going to say that's the first thing to try. Interesting problem. This happens all the time, and we're in this really kind of intermediate stage where people are still, they want to get, this is what we talked about at the beginning, they want to get internet on their TV, and so they're using their computer, which gets internet, plugging into the TV, and it's like electrician would call it an impedance mismatch. It's like the two things don't quite match, so you got to get connectors and stuff, and it's it seems like it should work, but it's always a little troublesome. I tell you what, just keep asking the chat room, because these guys, they got a lot of suggestions for you. One of them's sure to work. Moving right along to June in Long Beach. Hi, June. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Leo, how exciting. I'm a long-time listener. It's good to talk to you.
Well, thank you.
I'm calling because I'm a chef and a DJ, and I have a hip-hop catering company.
Oh, my God. Wait a minute. My mind is reeling. That sounds so cool. So do you come, you make the food, you come, you cater, and you play music?
Well, in the last year, I've started experimenting with you streaming while I cook for these events.
Oh, even cooler.
Huh?
Even cooler, so people can watch you while you're cooking.
Exactly. So my first couple of shows, I was able to film from the camera built into my MacBook, but that's not very exciting for a cooking show, because the computer just sits there. It's kind of boring. So I've had a friend come and hook up a camera to a wire and hold the camera while I cook.
Yeah.
But I like to move around a lot. I like to, while something's cooking, I'll go to the living room and I'll DJ. And then I have to get a third person to carry
I have to watch this, June. What is it? What is it on Ustream.tv?
Yeah, on Ustream, just look up Junebug's Kitchen. It's Junebug with 2 G's at the end.
Junebug with 2 G's at the end, Junebug's Kitchen. And so you'll listen to music, you'll DJ, you'll play, you'll cook, you'll go back and forth.
Exactly. Yep. So what I would love is if there was such a thing as a wireless webcam, so that way the camera person could move around without being attached to cords and wires and have to worry about dropping the laptop and all that. Is there such a thing?
Interesting. So you want a wireless video camera that you can move around? That's an interesting question.
I've seen some people that can Ustream from their iPhone, but then I feel like the quality of that
quality's low, but that is one way to do it. You know, you can use Ustream has a iPhone application, actually an Android one as well that you can stream from, and that is wireless. But, you know, I think the problem is that good quality video isn't going to be wireless. There is one solution to this that it's actually pretty good. I have it. It's from a company called eCam, ECAMM.com. Is it a Mac?
Yeah, MacBook Pro.
All right. I think this is going to work for you then. It's called the BT1. And it's exactly what you want. It's a webcam that's wireless using Bluetooth now. That means you can't go too far.
I wouldn't want to go more than, say, 20.
Yeah, that should work. That should work. It does only work on the Mac. It has a little tripod, so you can hook it up. But it's tiny. I have it here somewhere. If I can find it, I'll bring it out. So you pick it up off the little tiny tripod, but you can also put it down on the tripod. It never has to be connected to the computer because it uses Bluetooth.
Perfect.
And then so if you get up and go in the other room, you just pick it up. You could do this. You don't need a camera operator. You just you reach out, you pick it up, say, "Hey, let's go to the other room. I'm going to play some music while the chicken's stewing." And you go in the other room.
If it's tiny, then technically I could strap it onto my head like a headlamp if I wanted.
You could. There are Bluetooth cameras that you actually put on your head as well. But I think this is actually a very good choice. This sounds like what you want to do. The quality is. Yeah, it's good enough for Ustream. It's good quality. It's better quality than streaming from a phone, of course. It looks like a webcam. You're using a webcam right now. You're using your eyesight. It's about the same quality.
Okay, that works for me.
It's $150. It's from eCam.com, ECAMM.com. It's called the BT1. When I heard about it, I bought it immediately, and I played with it. And, yeah, it's pretty cool. It does the job.
How exciting. I'm going to check.
Junebugs. Just search for Junebugs Kitchen.
Yep, on Ustream.
And you can see the Cajun cooking and the hip-hop music. Thank you, Junebug.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Look at this. We got an interloper in studio with us all the way from Disneyland. Dick DeBartolo, Mad Magazine's maddest writer. Now, see, Dick, I was singing the praises of your Logitech C510 camera. Yes. And it's all out of focus and blurry, and it looks terrible.
You know what? It has been going back and forth for the past hour, in and out, in and out.
Yeah, it must be seeing something that it's focusing on.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's something wrong with it. After all the good things I said, it looks terrible.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, of course, I rebooted, and then it was fine for 5 minutes. But the minute you see, the key is never to dial in to this camera.
That's right, because the minute you
if
call,
I look at myself, I am perfect.
Yeah. Well, that's how I feel. I am perfect.
I'll reboot after we're done.
So, Dick is, of course, Mad Magazine's maddest writer for the last 4 decades, but he also happens to be kind of a gadget hound. And he joins us every week to talk about his latest crazy gadget. We also do a show every week, actually every Monday through Friday, called The Daily Gizwiz, and even more great gadgets. So what do you have for us today, Dick?
Well, you know, we haven't talked about on the radio the new Roku boxes.
Oh, and I love me some Roku. You know, it's funny because this was the topic of the day today, with how do I connect my big screen TV to the internet?
Oh, this is a way to do it.
It's
and
the
also,
way,
yeah. I got an email from Brian with not a specific date, but he said Hulu is coming to the Roku.
You know, this is interesting because Hulu has blocked Google TV. They've blocked everybody else, but they've made a deal with the Roku box. As far as I know, it's the only way you can watch Hulu Plus is on the Roku box.
I hope so, because I love saying Hulu is coming to the Roku. I mean, who knew that Hulu is coming to the Roku?
You know,
did you?
Why is it the computer industry loves these baby words?
Yeah,
Hulu on your Roku.
Did you reboot your Roku box?
Oh no, I have a boxy box. Yahoo on my Hulu on my Roku.
The Roku. Well, Roku is cheapo now. They're down to under $60.
I got a Google. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is. Well, it starts at $60. You could still get a $100 one, right? That's the one I got.
Yes, you could. The $100 one has kind of like instant replay, which they never had before. They all have remote control. The under $60 one is 720p. And then the $80 one is 1080p. And then the $100 one introduces instant replay, and there's also 1080p. All of them come with remote control.
I think this is the easiest way. If you've got an HD TV to set up, to get that connected to the internet. If it doesn't have a connection, you connect the Roku via wireless or wired. You put the HDMI cable or the component cable into your TV, and then it's got a simple menu. You can watch your Netflix movies. You can watch Amazon. You can buy movies on Amazon.
Leo, I have TWiT on now 24 hours a day.
You can watch us
on a 26-inch monitor. It's really great.
Does have a TWiT on the Google box and the Hulu box and the Roku? You got a little TWiT on your Hulu.
And I sit in a little baby chair and watch.
Why am I'm mocking these companies? My own company sounds like. Hey, by the way, congratulations. So we do recommend. That is a great choice. I love the Roku. Really do love it. But I did want to mention that last week I made a rather bold plea. I said if we couldn't get 10,000 followers for Dick DeBartolo on Twitter, that means there's no one listening to this show. There's no point in continuing. I might as well just quit. Because if I couldn't get, with 1 million people, I believe there's 1 million people listening, and I couldn't get you a paltry few thousand followers on Twitter, what's the point?
Well, yeah, you know, first of all, I didn't want to embarrass you, but you started out doing it door to door, and that's not a good way to get people on Twitter. So, but you were right. You were right. It's very funny because I got a bunch of emails. Of course, they were all kidding. They're going, Dick, we love you. We love you. We can't follow you on Twitter. We want Leo to have to quit.
Oh, that's so mean. Well, we did it by Dick's birthday, which was the 19th, which was Tuesday. You made 10,000 followers. You now have 10,347 followers. But I'm not done yet. I think we should get more people to follow the GizWiz because it's a great Twitter feed, funny, interesting, informative. It's everything that you'd ever want in a Twitter feed. And if you're on Twitter, he's the GizWiz, TheGizWiz. And follow Dick DeBartolo.
Follow the man. Follow the man.
Follow him. Follow.
Anywhere he goes.
Dick, we'll see you on the GizWiz, twit.tv/DGW. Or, yeah, if you have a Roku box, you can watch it on the TWiT channel. It's in the channel store.
Did I clear up on my camera? No, it did not. Okay, I'm going to reboot while you finish up this show, and I'll be back for the Daily GizWiz in semi-high def.
In quarter def. Thank you, Dick. Great to talk to you. I love Dick. He's such a funny guy. He really is great. He also, I think, knows something about Alfred E. Newman also has a Twitter account. And I think Dick knows something about that as well, but I might be wrong. David, Beaumont, California. Welcome, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, David.
Hi. My question was, my wife sings, and I'd like to a way to be able to record her on my PC, on the PC hard drive, and I'd like it to be something quality, not MP3, or something higher quality than MP3. What do you?
Yeah, well, obviously you need a microphone and you need recording software. The microphone, there are a number of good choices because most professional grade mics, like the mic I use, have a XLR connector. It's an unusual connector on them, and they need, many of these mics, they need specially powered mixers and so forth. They're not ideal. In fact, they're not compatible with a computer. You'd have to buy an adapter box, but there are companies now that make very good quality, in my opinion, very good quality USB-based microphones. My favorite is the Blue Yeti. It's a really strange name, and wait till you see it. It's a weird-looking mic, but it records. The record quality is spectacular. Blue Microphones makes professional-grade recording microphones for sound studios and so forth. Blue Mic, BLUEMIC.com. And then you can get a free program like Audacity to record in wave quality. It's really the mic that's going to make the difference. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thanks for the calls. We'll see you next time. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And it's time to talk about computers and the internet and cell phones and camcorders and MP3 players and home theater and all the cool jazz and gizmos that make up this digital world of ours. My phone number is 8888-ASK-LEO, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. of A, 8888-ASK-LEO. If you're outside the USA, you just call +1 888-827-5536 from say Skype out. That'll be toll free, and then you don't have to pay for that, which is good because I'm going to keep you on hold for a while because we have 5 lines, and I'm slow. I take my time. I'm what's known classically as a windbag, which is normally, not a good thing, but it's a great thing if you're a talk radio host, especially if, as most of us are in the beginning, you're not a very good talk radio host and you can't get any calls. It's a good thing to be able to talk for a long time about nothing. So that's an occupational hazard, which my wife and family will tell you extends out into the rest of my life as well. We'll talk about something today. There's actually something very interesting to talk about today. Apple, this was a big week for Apple in a couple of ways. First of all, they had a fantastic quarter, and their analyst call said, this is as usual. In fact, I would say in every quarter for the last year or so, Apple's had fantastic quarters. Their stock price now at over $300 a share. A few years ago, it was in the 20s, 27, 28. Well, I bet a few of you wish you'd bought Apple stock back then. You'd be worth 10 times more. I do not allow myself to buy tech stocks for 2 reasons. One, because, of course, it's an ethical conflict of interest, because then I would have a vested interest in the success of and failure of some companies that I cover. 2, because when I did buy tech stocks many moons ago, I was so bad at predicting what was going to happen that I lost my shirt. And I like having a shirt. You would like me to have a shirt. You don't want to see me without a shirt, so I'm not going to buy any more tech stocks. I've learned my lesson. It's hard to predict. Every once in a while, somebody come up to me. I remember about 15 years ago, a guy drove up in a Rolls Royce. Get out. Looking very posh. Said, I just want you to know, I want to thank you for that Rolls Royce. I said, me? He said, yes, because when the zip drives, this is how long ago that was, when the zip drives came out, you told us how great they were on your radio show. And I said, I better buy some of that iOmega stock. And he did. And I said, well, I hope you sell it. And I was right there, too, because it ain't going to last. I hope he still has that Rolls Royce. It's one thing to know when to get in. It's a whole other kettle of fish to know when to get out, isn't it? However, and that's the problem. You see, you look at the Apple earnings this quarter and you go, wow, they are doing so well. And isn't that the wrong time to buy a stock, is when it's at a peak? Isn't the rule buy low, sell high? So they're at they're the highest they've been in ages, and you want to buy now? I don't think so. $20 billion in revenue in the quarter, $4 billion in after-tax earnings, both all-time records for Apple. No wonder their stock's so high. And the success, of course, comes mostly from the sales, not of computers, but of portable devices, iPhones, iPods, iPads. iPhone sales, 14.1 million iPhone 4s were sold. So you could forget all the talk about, antenna gate, and they scratch and the glass breaks. Steve Martin tweeted, Apple made this great product, made it perfectly, and then they said, let's make it glass and slippery. But that's not deterring people from buying it. 91% increase in iPhone sales from the 3GS last year. 91%, almost doubled. And this was the big surprise, Steve Jobs gets on the conference call and reads a scripted statement in which he lambastes Android, which of course tells you who he thinks the big competition is, and says, nobody wants a 7-inch tablet. That's hardware manufacturers talking. They're not thinking about software folks. Software folks are just going to take a pass because they said, oh, I'm not going to develop for that. It's too complicated. Well, you know, when you hear Steve talk, there's 2 points of view to take. Well, there's probably many, but I take 2 different points of view. Point of view 1 is Steve is a masterful businessman and strategist. And in the past, he said things like, well, no one will ever want to watch video on a small screen. This shortly before Apple released iPods with video. He said, no one will want to read a book on a portable device. This shortly before Apple released the iPad. So Steve is not above doing something that the tech industry calls FUD, spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt amongst the competition. Misdirection, a magician might call it. Pay no attention to this hand. Look over here. Look over here. So some say, oh, Steve's saying 7-inch tablets are terrible. Some say is a sure sign. Some serious people say is a sure sign that's what Apple's going to do next. So you can view what Steve Jobs says with that hat on, and I think both hats are right, by the way. With the hat of this man is a master strategist. He's thinking 4 steps ahead of the opposition, of the competition. He's playing them like a fiddle. So anything he says, you take with a grain of salt. When he says, I love this. He says, Android's not open. He's talking about the Google phone operating system. It's not open. Open. Now, you got to understand there's probably many different definitions of open. When I think of open, I think of open source. That's the original open, where a user can look at the program, modify it to his heart's consent, create his own version and distribute it. And there are various open source licenses that some require you just, if you do that, you have to make your version open and so forth. So that's one kind of open. Another kind of open is open so that anybody can develop for it. Anyone who wants to can write a program for it. See, the iPhone is not open by any of those definitions. The iPhone is a closed system, which Apple, all the software on the iPhone, unless you jailbreak it, has to be approved by Apple, has to follow very rigid guidelines. No one else can make an iPhone. No one else can modify the source code or the software. I mean, that's in any sense of the word, the opposite of open. But Steve, he's very interesting. He says, no, we're open. It's Android that's closed. He says Windows was open. We're open. Android is not open. It's fragmented. Now, this, I think you have to say, is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is misdirection. This makes no sense in any universe that I'm aware of. It's gobbledygook. Black is white. Truth is fiction. Closed is open. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so that's one hat. That's the Steve Jobs as businessman hat. But everybody who knows Steve, and I don't count myself in that group, but everybody who knows Steve says that really all Steve really cares about is making great products. And we see that. I mean, he has a very, in this industry, an incredible track record. Not 100%. He's made some bad products. He's made some bad mistakes. But for the most part, he's made amazing products. And this is what he cares about. And sometimes I think maybe he makes a mistake. I think the iPhone 4 is an example. Obviously, it's selling well. But it's an example of maybe liking design a little too much and saying, well, I don't care if it's slippery and breaks easily, and that the antenna's on the outside, and so it doesn't, but it's beautiful. Look how pretty. It's kind of ironic because he made a gorgeous phone that we really pretty much have to put a case on and hide, or it will break and not work. But it's gorgeous. And I think that's a case of Steve maybe loving design a little too much, saying, oh, it's a gorgeous product. I love this. It's got to look like this. And it does. And apparently that's not held people back from buying it. It's been the most successful product Apple's ever had, probably. 14.1 million in 3 months. Beating RIM. Some debate. Steve says we're beating Android. Some debate over whether Android or iPhones are better selling. That it doesn't matter, right? That's the horse race. That doesn't matter. So you can put the second hat you can put on Steve, the second way you can interpret it, Steve, and it's as valuable to do this, is as a man who just has a vision and wants to create the best possible product and doesn't really care what anybody thinks, including, you know, his own people. In fact, 4 words you will never hear from Steve Jobs. 4 words you will never hear from Steve Jobs. What do you think? No, he's not going to ask that. It's always, what do I think? Right? But that's fine. That's what makes him a great visionary and creator. So when he says things like Android is fragmented and Windows is open and iPhone is open, you can interpret it from a business point of view, but you might not, it's a worthwhile exercise to say, maybe Steve, from the point of view of a product, maybe Steve looks at 7-inch tablets like the BlackBerry Playbook, which is what this was, and the Android tablets, the Samsung Tab, which these are obviously what he's aiming his barbs at. These new tablets that are coming out that are 7 inches. Maybe what he's saying is, I've tried them, I've looked at that size, and in my personal opinion, I really feel that that's too small. You know, if you want small, you need an iPhone. Next size up, the iPad. You want a keyboard and a mouse that's new, these new MacBook Airs, which are, of course, gorgeous. So Steve's got this very clear vision, and it's, I think, instructive to look at what he says with both points of view, as a great businessman and strategist, and as a product visionary. And you get something from both points of view, I think. It's very interesting to see what Steve announced. Now, on Wednesday, Apple had an event that may change the world of computing. We'll talk about that, too. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I want to take some calls, and we'll come back and talk about Apple's big announcements on Wednesday. I mean, I'll summarize. They talked about the new operating system, Tiger. Did I say Tiger? Liger. Did I say Liger? I mean Lion. It'll come out summer 2011. They talked about the new MacBook Airs, which are gorgeous, and I immediately ordered one. We'll see. You know, I ordered the cheapest one they had, the $1,000 one, which is a 10-inch. It's tiny. And it weighs like less than, it's tiny. It's their netbook, but it's an expensive netbook. But I can't wait to see that. And I should get that on Monday because I ordered it right away. I ordered it overnight, but, you know, it'll come Monday, unfortunately. I was hoping to get it by today. If I'd gone to the Apple stores, I think they have them in the Apple stores, I could have. But I just, you know, I ordered it online. They announced the new iLife package, which looks nice, you know. But the big story, I think, and the thing that may change computing, is they announced an app store for OS X. And I'm going to talk about why that concerns me. It could not be bad. It could be very good. It could be fine. But I'm a little nervous, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But I don't want to put off calls too much. So we'll get some calls, and then maybe next hour we'll talk about what I think Apple might be up to. And it's the Steve Jobs product and businessman hat. It's good for both, just not good for you. Zach in West Los Angeles, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, Zach. Oh, wait a minute. I have to push the button.
I got him.
Hey, Zach, how are you?
Great, Leo. How about you?
Wonderful. Thanks for calling. What can I do for you?
Listen, I have a really important email question. I've been on Gmail, I've been on Hotmail, and others, but I really want to set it up properly or use a new service to get everything in sync on an iPad, a BlackBerry, a MacBook Pro at home, and a PC at work, where every email that's been read shows it's been read, everyone that's answered, every sent folder, drafts, and so forth has everything in sync, and I can't run an Exchange server.
Okay. You got the right idea, which is the only way to do that is not to use pop mail, which is what most people use, Post Office Protocol. It's what most Internet service providers offer, and it's the mail. You'll know you have pop mail. It's the mail where you get your mail, downloads it from the server, and then deletes it on the server, and you have one copy on your hard drive. And that's what most people do, and the reason most Internet service providers use it is it takes the minimum amount of space on their servers. In fact, many of them have 10. This is kind of almost laughable. 10 megabyte limits on the inbox, which is like nothing nowadays. That could be that's one attachment. So that's one kind of mail. But you got it. What you want is a server-based solution. One is Exchange. The other is IMAP. IMAP is not owned by Microsoft. It's an industry standard. It's not as functional as Exchange. For instance, Exchange also supports contacts and calendars. IMAP does not.
Right.
But IMAP is exactly what you just described. What happens is The mail is stored on your provider's servers forever. It never gets deleted. When you read a message, it marks it read on the server. When you send a message, it puts it in the sent mailbox on the server. When you save something on as a draft, it gets saved there. And then when you log in on any other machine, even a machine you've never used before, and you log into your email server, and you can use, by the way, you don't have to, it's not just web-based. You can use Microsoft Outlook. You can use Apple's mail program. You can use Thunderbird. Most mail programs support IMAP. Immediately, as soon as you log in, that server structure, the folder structure, what's in the sent box, all gets duplicated on your local computer. So
what about calendars and contacts? You can't get that without Exchange.
You can't, and that's where Exchange comes in. Now, here's the good news. A number of companies, and I think Google is probably the one I would recommend, support Exchange as well as IMAP. So if you have all your contacts in Google, in the Gmail, if you have a Gmail account, if you have a Google Calendar, and you use Exchange to synchronize on the iPhone, the iPad, on, I believe Outlook will work. Google looks like an Exchange server to those and will synchronize contacts, calendar, as well as mail.
But that still requires, doesn't that require an ASP and a application service provider?
No, Google's your application service provider. Google does it all.
No charge.
No charge. Free.
So you just have to get their settings for Outlook, for Thunderbird, for the BlackBerry.
When you set it up on an iPhone, instead of setting it up as a Gmail, you go to the mail accounts. Instead of setting it up as a Gmail account, you set it up as an Exchange account using m.google.com as the server.
I see. Okay, that makes more sense.
And then
now,
when you
Leo,
set it up, it says there's 3 little check boxes that say, okay, you want me to sync calendar? Yeah. You want me to sync contacts? Yeah. You want me to sync mail? And you can say yes or no. It's the same. Exchange and IMAP are functionally identical.
Leo, I was just in a focus group this week from one of the major cell providers. Do you want to know what they were testing?
As long as it's not violating any agreement you made.
No, sir. There is one of the carriers is about to launch the biggest, fastest 4G according to their ad copy. They've got 4G tablets ready to go from Dell. They've got phones from Samsung and others. And video conferencing is the main selling point they're trying to put out to the general public. If you were to venture a guess, who would it be?
Well, we know Verizon's doing LTE and probably all of those things. But since you are asking me to guess, I'm guessing it's not Verizon because that's the obvious answer. Who is it?
It's T-Mobile.
T-Mobile, yeah. T-Mobile's very aggressive. They have something called HSPA Plus, which is, it's kind of a stealth product. I think people don't know about it. It's a fast, they claim, as fast as LTE or Clearwire, the 4Gs from Verizon and Sprint, respectively. That's very interesting. I'm not surprised, but you know what? It's not. Here's the deal. Yeah, it's T-Mobile, and it's going to be everybody else. This next year is going to be a fascinating time for high-speed data. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson, home theater guru, is here. We're going to do a full-day show in a couple of weeks, right?
We are, November 6th, Saturday. Normally I'm on Sundays, but I'm going to be up in the Bay Area and going to the Audio Engineering Society convention in San Francisco. And I thought, you know what? I can't come to the Bay Area and not come visit my friend Leo.
That's right.
So I'm going to come up to the studio and be there all 3 hours if you'll have me.
We will, all 3 hours. November 6th, that's a Saturday. So if your station doesn't carry the show on Saturdays, you'll have to get the podcast after the fact or listen to the internet broadcast of one of the stations that does carry both days. That's November 6th, all day. Get your home theater questions ready for Scott Wilkinson.
Absolutely.
Now, subwoofers. Is 2 better than 1?
Yes. Aupu Mosen asks, many new AV receivers, and again, this is regarding AV receivers, have 7.2, 9.2, or even 11.2 channels, as opposed to 5.1 or 7.1.
Yeah, I've heard of 0.1. The 0.1 is 1 subwoofer.
Correct.
So now they're doing 2.
Correct.
0.2.
And the answer is, does that mean you can connect 2 subwoofers? And the answer is yes, absolutely. That's the point. Now, very often, all this is an internal Y splitter. Okay, so you could do this with a 7.1 receiver. You've heard of
split it externally, yeah.
Exactly. You just connect the output to a Y splitter and send it to 2 subs, no problem.
As long as you have enough juice to do it, because don't subwoofers take a lot of wattage?
No, they don't, because they are self-powered generally.
So you just need a signal going out to them. You don't really need any big amplification.
Correct. They have their own amplifiers because you're right. They do need a lot of juice. And because of that, subwoofer manufacturers have said, well, we don't know how much juice our customers have, so we're going to put it in the subwoofer so that we know it's got enough oomph to do the job.
So if you have a powered subwoofer, have at it. Now, but there could be some problems. Oh, and we're running out of time. That's one problem right now.
Dang.
Hang on, and I want to tell you what the problems can be.
Sure.
With having more than one subwoofer. In just a bit, Scott Wilkinson's here. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's Balin, not Balin. I always said Balin, but I guess a Balin is a whale's sieve.
Actually, that's baleen.
Baleen, okay. Well, so is it Balin or Balin?
I think it's Balin. Or Balin? I guess I've always called it Balin.
I've always said Balin, but I guess if it's balanced, unbalanced, it'd be Balin. I don't know.
Yeah.
As is often the case, most of the time these words, these highly technical words, are never pronounced out loud.
Right, they're only written.
You only read them because geeks stick to themselves. So, one of the privileges I've had as a early geek broadcaster is I can decide how to pronounce it any way I want.
That's right.
Since nobody really knows.
That's right.
There's that big battle over whether it's GIF or GIF. And finally, the guy who invented the format had to weigh in.
Oh, and what'd he say?
I can't remember. I think GIF. I think GIF. But I should point out that's just what he says.
Yeah, right.
What does he get to say what it is?
I've always been bugged in Back to the Future, which is just now out on Blu-ray, all 3 versions.
Oh, that I got to get.
You got to get that. Apparently, it looks very good. But in the first one, Doc Brown refers to 1.21 gigawatts.
Which is completely wrong. Everybody agrees.
Yes, it's gigawatts.
It's gigawatts. There's no gigawatts. The hell is he talking about? I know. And I think actually that's just kind of, I don't know if they didn't know or if it's just funny. I think it's just a funny way of saying it.
It may be. I can't imagine they would make that kind of mistake on a geeky movie like that.
I know. Gigawatts. So the guy who wrote the format says, it's pronounced like GIF, period. The end. That's final. End of story. Well, sorry, dude, but just because you invented it doesn't mean you get to say. I mean, we can decide whatever we want.
Well, it's true, but don't people who discover planets or stars or comets get to name them?
But we can decide if it's Uranus or Uranus. We don't.
That's true.
Right?
You're right.
And there's a battle. I think there's a legitimate battle.
Yeah.
GIF, because so if it's like giraffe, it'd be short. It'd be a soft G, GIF. But if it's like gigawatts, it'd be a hard G, G. So GI can be pronounced both ways.
Yep.
So there. English isn't any help there.
I guess I would choose GIF because GIF reminds me of peanut butter.
Peanut butter, I agree. And GIF, it's like a gift.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it's a gift.
And if you wanted to get logical, you could say, well, gigawatt is a technical term. GIF is a technical term. So maybe they should be the same.
I think there are far more GIs with a hard G than with a soft G.
Yeah, giraffe.
Giraffe is, I think, one of the few.
One of the exceptions, maybe, yeah.
Right. Almost always GI is good.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say so.
Oh, gigantic. There's another one.
There's another one. Good.
Gigantic.
The chat room is always there.
And at the Zenith television plant, they called them Balins, says Tadeo.
Ah,
or is it Daddy-O?
How do you pronounce it? I always wonder that on chat room monikers, handles.
Yeah.
You never know.
And the Germans say gigawatts.
Do they really?
But as far as we know, the good doctor was not a German.
No, he wasn't. He was American.
Yeah. So so let me ask: now the first movie everybody loves, second movie quite good because that's the one where he's got the hoverboard. Third movie, I don't even know if I've ever seen it. Is it good?
Well, our movie reviewer David Vaughn made a great observation.
Is it like Godfather 3?
He said this trilogy is the same story told three times.
Yeah, it is.
In 3 different ways.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I like the third one. It's got ZZ Top in it.
Well, how can that be? Hold on.
with the spinning guitars.
How can that be bad? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll get back to the phones in just a second with your questions and calls. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. Scott Wilkinson is here, our home theater expert from the Ultimate AV Magazine. We were, during the commercial, debating with the chat room the pronunciation of BALUN, which is that device you attach to an HDMI. Actually, it can be used for a lot of things. It's a balanced, unbalanced converter.
Right. Normally used to convert Cat5 into HDMI or component video.
Right.
I mean, in what we're talking about.
And some say in the chat room it's Balun because it's balanced, unbalanced. But then Daddy-O in our chat room says he worked at the Zenith plant, and the Zenith engineers called them Baluns.
That's what I've always called it.
It's like that debate over whether you pronounce the graphics file format GIF as GIF or GIF. There's no, I mean, there's a right answer, I guess, because the guy who invented it says it's GIF. But you and I agree. It sounds like peanut butter if you say GIF, so we're going to call it GIFs.
And the guy who invented it be damned.
Yeah. Just because you invented it doesn't mean you get to pronounce it right.
Yeah, really. Anyway, you were saying something about 2 subs.
2 subs. Now, one problem with 2 subs I would worry about is phase, because they're in different parts of the room. If they get out of phase, you're going to get a weird canceling or amplification effect, aren't you?
That's exactly correct. But you're going to get that with 1 sub as well, because the sound comes out of the subwoofer and it reflects around the room. And the room, assuming particularly if it's like a rectangular, normal kind of room, is going to, at certain frequencies, it's going to reinforce them, and it's going to create what are called standing waves.
Well, you get that. Sometimes people put a sub in the corner.
Yes.
Just so it sounds
Yeah, you put a sub in a corner, you get a lot more bass. It reinforces the bass.
Reinforces it.
Now, and so this really points out the importance of placement with subwoofers, 1 or 2 or 4 for that matter. And a lot of people have done a lot of research on this, and one of the best places to start if you have 2 subwoofers, which is what we're talking about here, is if you have a rectangular, relatively closed room, you want to put them on the side walls at the midpoint of the side walls. And if you do that and you sit near the center of the room, you are going to minimize the peaks and nulls, as they're called, the standing waves problems in that room with those 2 subs. And in fact, having 2 subs will solve that problem if they're judiciously placed better than 1 sub can.
So that might be the argument for 2 subs.
Exactly.
Oh, that's interesting.
Precisely right.
Okay. So, yeah, I have an audio engine speakers. I got my son. He wanted a stereo system with a big bass because he listens to this kind of music called dubstep that's all about.
Yeah, right.
And
you hear that going in the cars.
You're in the cars, and so I got him the audio engine speakers, which are very nice powered speakers, but they offer a additional powered sub, and it has on it a phase knob.
Yeah, most subs do.
So you can say, oh yeah, it's a little out of phase. I could tell, and you could turn it. And maybe that'll help. So, but that you're doing by ear, right?
You're doing that by ear. You really have to, unless you have sophisticated measuring equipment, which most people don't. Right. So yeah, then you're turning it by ear. If you think you hear something weird, you can try adjusting that control. Some subs only offer 0 or 180-degree phase switches.
Oh, okay.
Not continuous controllers. Some of them offer continuous controllers. So whatever you have, give it a try. See what works. But placement is more important than the setting of that switch or that knob.
All I know is I had to tell him you can't listen to your music when anyone's home because we live in a 2-story house, but the whole place vibrates.
Yes, yes. Well, that sub must be pretty good.
Well, I figure we don't have a rodent problem now. any pests? This is better than an exterminator.
They're gone.
They're gone. They go, I'm getting out of here. I got a headache. This is terrible. Why is it so loud in here? I'm moving next door. All right. So thank you, Scott Wilkinson. UltimateAVMagazine.com is the website. If you have...
By the way, at UltimateAVMag.com, we're running a new sweepstakes I want to make sure everybody knows about.
Okay.
The prize is a Logitech Harmony One universal remote. My favorite universal remote of all time. The one I, in fact, use in my own home studio.
I agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
So log on, post a comment, and good luck at winning that prize.
UltimateAVMag.com. Now, let me ask, before you go,
yes,
have you ordered the Logitech review?
I'm waiting
Google
for
TV?
it. Yeah.
I'm waiting. Mine got shipped. So maybe next week we can do a little mini review if you have time.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
I'll plug it in and I'm running out of HDMI ports. I got a Roku box a cable box, that Oppo Blu-ray player, which I love.
It's great. Yeah.
I've got an the new Apple TV, and I think one more thing plugged into the HDMI. I have 5 HDMI devices. I'm going to have to unplug something. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Or get an HDMI switcher.
Yep. Thank you, Scott Wilkinson. We'll talk again next week. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.